Namaskaram, Gopal sir.
Namaskar.
How are you, sir?
Pretty good, and I hope you are pretty good too.
Yeah, I'm good, sir. Thank you. How are you been doing these days?
Okay, sort of sailing smooth with a bit of turbulence now and then, but otherwise it's okay.
Right, right. So where are you located?
This is in Tamil Nadu. The Kodaikanal hills are next to us. We are at the foothills of Kodaikanal. We are living in a senior citizens' home at the foothills, but we have our own home in Kodaikanal to which we go off and on.
So it must be full of nature serene.
Yes, it abounds in beautiful nature, waterfalls, river, and so on. And here at the retirement home, it's very quiet because next to a mountain, and in this retirement colony, there are no high-rise buildings. Every house has only ground floor, and so we can see a lot of the sky.
Great. So what were you doing before your retirement? Can you please share more details about that?
I was basically a civil engineer specialized in coastal engineering. So I was teaching at IIT Madras, and then went abroad. I was doing teaching and research in the US, and then for 8 years in Kuwait from 1982 to 90. Then we came back and settled down in India. And for a while, I was teaching in a high school in Kodaikanal, and my interest in spirituality came even from my high school times because we had for the Tamil subject, we had a secondary reader that is called Ramakrishna Upanishadam. From then on, my interest in spirituality started along with my interest in engineering. So that's how I kept up with masters like Ramana Maharishi, J. Krishnamurthy, and of late Eckhart Tolle and such people.
Yes. Tamil history has been deep rooted with spirituality, which I've heard lately. And so you mentioned about J. Krishnamurti and Eckhart Tolle. So can you share some points from their teachings? What do you like most about J. Krishnamurti?
One of his main teaching is to understand the thinker is the thought. The thought makes us think. There's a thinker thinking thoughts. That's not correct. The thinker and the thought arise at the same time. And that made a big impact on me in 1965 when I first heard him at Vasanta Vihar in Chennai. And that's his Krishnamurti Study Center. And then on, I had some other impact from his talks. Like he was saying that the way the fear rises in the mind and other feelings, emotions, you must be there watching it and see what happens when you don't participate in it or when you don't react to it, that kind of thing. And Eckhart Tolle, his main point is be in the now. So usually the habitual thought process will take us back and forth between past and future, but stay in the now and see what happens. So they don't give any do's and don'ts in terms of practicing, but just listening to them brings about the change.
So what is your takeaway of this combination? What is the outcome did you get from this Krishnamurti studies and Eckhart Tolle studies and even the Ramakrishna studies?
Yeah. The main thing was that they brought about a certain harmony, and then we found that there is an integration, less conflicts in the mind. So those things made a difference. And facing problems in life, I found that teachings were helpful because my conventional reactions were not that strong. And so there was such certain self-awareness that brought about the change in sort of not so obvious outwardly, but I could sense them, and that made me feel peaceful.
Sir, I want to touch upon today on a topic of near-death experience in spirituality. So,
Right.
What is a near-death experience according to you, and when did you hear for the first time?
Okay, I was employed in Kuwait at that time in a government research institute, and one of my subordinates, I had a team, and one of my subordinates, she brought a book by name Life After Life by Raymond Moody, who is supposed to be the pioneer in this field. And that book really captured me. I was really taken in by whatever was in the book because I felt that this knowledge and near-death experience can really transform individuals and so collectively also some impact. That's the first time I came into it. And later there were many other books coming. Then, because I had a blog on near-death experience, some people read it and called me to give talks to the members of the association. And that's how my interest in it grew. And I'm still doing sort of armchair research on it. The information comes from different directions and it's still a growing thing, but that's how I began.
How the understanding of NDE has changed your perspective towards the life and spirituality?
Okay, this is an important question because what happened was once I started paying attention to the episodes of near death experience, I found that it takes us away from the conventional mindset, which is a matter of running thoughts based on past and future. But this one brought me to the now, and in everyday life, I found that there is a feeling for everything that's happening during life, small or big things. There is really no difference. And if I am traveling for, say, from by bus from Kodaikanal to Madurai, for example, after some time settling to the bus is moving steadily, and the mind came to a quiet state without compulsion. So one could see the driver operating the bus at a fairly good speed, the passengers, some of them conversing, some quiet, and outside we see the trees, clouds, and so on. So the mind came to stay where I was, and that was a good feeling, and I felt it will have good effect on the health also. So, in daily life, it brought about some calmness because the perspective expands beyond the conventional mind zone of thinking. And then there is a sort of forgiving attitude towards people from the broad perspective that NDE brings. So, on the whole, it's very good in the sense. You see, when we say namaskar, the two hands come together and move together synergistically. And that's the way the mind also operates in a synergistic way instead of internal conflicts. So, on the whole, it's been very enjoyable. Life, everyday life becomes enjoyable because you see people fresh as if you are meeting them for the first time. And that was quite a happy situation.
So, does it really change your attitude towards the life, towards the relationship we have, towards the career we are growing?
Yes, it had very good impact because the conventional mindset is what creates the problems. And this awareness sort of uh, puts it down. The impact or the intensity of conventional mind becomes less and less. So, in that sense, it was a big change in daily life.
There are the seekers who has very first time experience the NDE. They might get scared or afraid of the life they are going through. So what are the advice for them? What do you suggest that how should they look at that incident of the life?
Oh, yes, that is because before I came into near death experience, I was familiar with Krishnamurthy, Ramana Maharishi teachings. As a result, I could see that they are actually experiencing what these people are saying, a kind of consciousness beyond the ordinary, expanding universal consciousness. That the parallel is what made me get interested in this. So if I met a person who had an ND and he is afraid to talk to people about it because they will think he is crazy, Then I will tell them, you read these masters and you have had one of the finest experiences. You have been very lucky in that sense. Then I will encourage them to treat it with great respect because many people don't have it. And it's related to what the enlightened people talk about.
You mentioned here about the consciousness and the awareness. So what is consciousness according to you? Just you can shed a light on that for the seekers who have started their spiritual journey.
Okay, consciousness is something from which our mind is created by the brain as consciousness flows through it. And consciousness by itself is not conditioned, but when it flows through the brain, there is a conditioned response, which is our minds, conditioned based on society, family, and maybe even past life effects and so on. So before it enters the brain, it's somewhat pure. And moment it flows through the brain, the mind takes place. And mind is very limited in its awareness. That's what creates the ego. And all problems come because of that limited awareness. So then we find that once we know about this, we would like to go back to the unspoiled consciousness through self-awareness. And in that direction, the NDE helps because they actually experience that unspoiled consciousness. So that's how they are related.
So you have also written a book on near-death experience.
This book actually is one of the chapters in the book. The title of the book is The Journey into Oneself. I'm going to show a few details on it later on. And so the journey into oneself implies a matter of self-awareness, and how it's related to near-death experience is shown in the 9th chapter there. Otherwise, it only explains the self-awareness of how we think and how we react and so on. As a result, we find this inward journey takes us into the regions of complications. And awareness slowly begins to dissolve the conditioning. So the brain can function relatively in a less conditioned way. The lesser it is conditioned, the better it is, there will be more compassion towards people. So that is how the book is primarily on self-awareness and NDE as part of it.
So you also mentioned about the ego. So what is ego in spirituality? Is that a mind playing the game?
Yes, that is, the ego has arisen out of the limited awareness which makes us think we are the body mind combination. And then so it has an identification based on the body, nationality, attachment to religion, and so on. So that conditioned entity is the result of limited awareness of the human mind. And the moment the child is started learning, the surrounding, everybody is acting from the ego. So it also gets trapped by that kind of habitual neurology. So that's how generation after generation, the child starts being trapped by ego atmosphere around, and it keeps on going like that. And it results in war between nations and so on. So the ego is a result of limited awareness of the brain, and the atmosphere with the child starts growing is already ego filled. So that's how there is a problem. See, now I want to share two things before we go on to the slide. One may be called the affectionate bystander attitude. That is, we become a witness to ourselves, like look at ourselves as a third person, and that may be called the affectionate bystander attitude. That's one of the things that begins to change our outlook on life and in our relationships, that we don't become so unforgiving. When once this bystander attitude is there, we are under its spotlight, and then it gets many good things into the awareness. That's one thing. And the other thing, second thing is about the topic of death itself. Many people don't like the word. It's a kind of morbid thing. It's up away somewhere. Why are you bringing it in and spoiling the party kind of thing? So, um, but that's not a good situation because there is in Kathopanishad a conversation between Yama, the god of death, and Nachiketa. And in that conversation, Yama says, if you do not show interest in death, you cannot understand life. And if you are afraid of death, you'll be afraid of life. So those were powerful statements to show that we must be interested in the topic and be bold enough to analyze, understand, and so on. That is how ND is directly in line with what Yama says in Kathopanishad. Now we can start the slides.
Okay.
Now we're going to see some aspects of near-death experience, and it's called a paranormal phenomenon because most people don't get such experiences, very unusual. And those who do have that experience are unable to communicate because it's beyond words, many of those items. Anyhow, to the extent that they communicate, we can understand. We'll go to the next slide. I'll just read it out. You can read along with me. Some people get resuscitated back to life from a short period of clinically dead condition. In that condition, they are stone dead. Ironically, during that period of death, they experience something extraordinary with their consciousness stepping out of their bodies. That is what is usually termed as an NDE, near-death experience. Now let's go to the next slide. The 5 essential messages from NDE. This is what we should focus on because when you read episodes on NDE, you'll see these things coming up and then it'll trigger feelings inside you so that you can pay more attention to them. Let's go to the first item, our immortal essence. During the period they are in that state of consciousness that is not affected by the brain because the brain is dead. And still we are able to, the entity is able to feel the consciousness. And at that time we understand that our essence is immortal in the sense at the Atma level or soul level, we are indestructible. That's the major impact they have, that we are an essence that has no beginning and no ending, so it is immortal, and we are very happy. People are very happy to be in that state, and they come back, and that feeling is still there. The immortality of the essence is felt. The second thing is, absence of reward punishment syndrome. Like in the during that period when we go to the afterlife, the usual hellish experience or that we are punished there for the mistakes we made is not there at all. They say there is no judge except oneself, and then there is no reward or punishment in the divine region. Everyone is loved. May have made mistakes, but the contact with divinity only helps us correct ourselves so that if we are born again, we won't make those mistakes and we will evolve. Now let's go to the third one. Sensing oneness with everyone and everything in the universe, the unconditional love. This is a very important thing because the separation between oneself and the other is false, because we are one with the whole universe, with the divinity. And so that oneness helps them feel tremendous because that's absent when we are in the conditioned brain state. The fourth one is the feeling of returning home. When they are there, they feel that is the home and this is where we are away from home. And so the conventional feeling that we think this is our home, that is removed by this near-death experience. And so in Sanskrit, there are the Purusharthas, the Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So the three first things is righteous living, and with some good enjoyment of life can take us to moksha. And this dharmartha kama moksha, in some Indian languages, they are written, the last item is written home, not moksha. For example, in Tamil, they say, Aram Porul Idbam Veedu. Veedu is home. So that means they feel the almost enlightened state for a short time when they are there. So the feeling of returning home is one of the important items in the NDE. Let's go to the fifth one, the fact of living many lives on this planet. They sense that reincarnation is a fact, and then we live many times on this planet, keep evolving until we have finished everything, and with expanding awareness, we merge with divinity. So these are the five things. Now let's go to the next one, the near-death experience, the sequence of events. First, when the entity, the human being, he or she may be in a traumatic condition due to an accident or heart attack and the like, and they see themselves on the operating table. The consciousness leaves the body. It's known as out of body experience, OBE, and simultaneously with that, all the pain is gone, relief from pain. Then the second thing is the entity travels through a dark tunnel and at a high speed towards a light that is seen dimly at the end. But the light gradually becomes brighter, and sometimes in the tunnel, the entity meets relatives or friends who have already died. Sometimes nobody will come, and the light, they merge with the light, and at that time feel tremendous love coming from the direction, a love with intensity that's unknown when we are on the planet, earthly life. You see the third one, moving towards amazing light, that takes place at the end of the tunnel. Life review. This is an important aspect of near-death experience. During this life review time, we are shown the incidents that we have gone through during our life, primarily about incidents in which we had been kind to somebody or harsh to somebody. In other words, what matters is what we have done to others. And the other important thing in life review is um, we experience what the other experienced under our hands, kind or harsh treatment. What they felt is what we will feel during the review. And that's how it can be very educative. Sometimes the light speaks when we had been not so kind to people. The light instructs, you could have done this as an alternative. So it's a kind of educative experience. Interesting thing is, almost all the views are shown from young days, and it's done in a less than a minute on our time on our clock, but they go through thousands of experience that we have from the childhood. You see the next one, vision of a great panorama. That is, after this, they move further beyond the tunnel and see what may be called a heaven-like place where all the people who had passed away before, quite a few of them will be seen. And at that time, there is the question comes from the light: do you want to come this way or go back to earthly life? And the entity, they feel that they have some small children to be taken care of or old people, then immediately they're back in the body and the pain also returns. So that's return, and then returning to earthly life. Then the last item is adjusting back to normal routine. So the people who had that fantastic experience find it difficult to harmonize it with what is going on, because people act in a very egoistic way, which is totally different from what they sensed during the NDE. So now one more thing. Other features of NDEs, the connectedness of all beings. We feel that we are not alone, that we are connected with everybody and everything. Timelessness. Yeah, there they make a statement which we cannot accept from the pure our rational mind. They say that past, present, and future exist at the same time. The forward moving time is only an illusion of the brain, but the reality, in that state of reality, there is no time. The last one is independence from cultural influences. Yeah. Whatever we have been conditioned to believe in, we feel that there are very limited awareness, and so we free ourselves from most of these group psychology, and we free ourselves from all groups and become very independent. These are the features, and now in the aftermath of experience, fear of death disappears because we sense we are eternal. Then a laid back attitude, general lack of, not lack, I mean, general reactive mind is slowed down. And so we take it easy, and the laid back attitude shows up in our not arguing with people and things like that. Unconditional love towards all, no sectarian feelings, no division made, man made divisions are recognized in that state of mind. Feeling of sacred, feeling, oh, yeah, this is very important. They feel that everything, even the so-called inanimate things, are sacred. Of course, human beings and other beings too, living beings. This sacredness is what makes us behave with deep feeling for everybody. And in that state, we won't even hurt an ant, much less cause problems to human beings or even other living beings. So this is the primary item I feel they carry from near-death experience, this sensing sacredness in all beings. And then they love, after coming back, they love life, love of death, and the afterlife. All three things they love: life, death, and afterlife. And then an eagerness to learn about the many manifestations on the earth. They want to learn more about geography and other things that nature has, and even man-made things. There is an eagerness to learn. So these are the aftermath of the experience. This happened 1 minute before I will just go back one step. See, they experience universal consciousness. But sometimes even human beings who do not have near-death experience suddenly are exposed to this universal consciousness. It just rushes into them. And a person from Germany had this. Before this happened to him, his family was destroyed by the Second World War. Much of his house and everything was taken away, and a big shock to him. He became a painter, and then this happened to him one day. It happened on the little island of Helgoland off the coast of Germany in North Sea. One afternoon at low tide on the west coast of the island, as I was climbing over the seaweed-covered rocks in order to have a rest beneath an overhanging cliff, a spiritual ecstasy suddenly took possession of me. The waves breaking at my feet and the endless surface of water stretching away to the vanishing point threw me all of a sudden into another sphere of consciousness. I myself was surf-seared infinity. Time, space, body consciousness, everything was blotted out, drawn up into an absolute consciousness of light and bliss. So we get an idea what the ND people experience, very similar to this. In that state, the brain is not functioning in the usual way. The conventional mind is tentatively absent. A person in the US, he was driving a car with his wife next to him, and he stopped at a red light. And then, as the light turned green, suddenly the wife found her husband was just slumping on a seat. He had a heart attack and he died. So she got out of the car and shouted for help. Fortunately, there was a police van nearby, and they immediately rushed, pulled him out of the car and started to give artificial resuscitation, and he came to life. Not immediately. After he was taken to the hospital, and when they gave a shock, he just suddenly came back. Afterwards, he wrote an article by this title, "I died at 10:52 a.m." in the Reader's Digest, and I read it. He wrote in 74. I read it in 75, and that one paragraph in that article is given here, and you will see the beauty of it. He says, recurrent nostalgia remains for that other reality, that condition of indescribable stillness and quiet, where the I is part of a harmonious whole. The memory suffers the whole drives for possession, approval, and success. So this line always remained with me. I quote in some places, but that's the most powerful impact of the NDE. This is the book I have written, The Journey into Oneself, and it is published by the John Hunt Publishing Company in UK. They have a branch in the USA also. And now the book is, they have sent to me the author copies, but it's not yet with the retailers. It seems there is a protocol. It will take some time before it gets to the shops. And in the meantime, I like to talk to people so that when it comes later on, they will be interested in buying. And so that's the main thing. Um, it's in the genre of mind, body, spirit. The publishers have put it in that group. Um, okay, this is the back cover, first paragraph, back cover of the book. So people do not generally understand that chasing happiness is not as important as discovering what it is to have a peaceful mind. When they do, happiness follows of its own accord. This book, The Journey into Oneself, explores the spiritual journey of self awareness, a movement towards the deeper self. It lays bare the root cause of our mental agitations. In other words, it functions as a wayside companion to those who wish to discover their own inner peace. Okay, now its contents, introduction, opening the gate. Okay, I won't go into much of these details. It will be there for you to see when you go through the recording. And all this, the one item I want to share with you is chapter 9, Death and the Message from NDE. And this, we also, the book discusses reincarnation and comes up with 8 pointers to show that it has some chapter of good health and so on. There's a word satori that they experience, the person, the German experience. That experience is called by a Japanese term satori. Monism is Advaita. That's the Indian philosophy of oneness or Advaita. That's in English called monism. So there are some details given and then the epilogue. So you may contact me at this email address if you wish to continue to have a conversation with me. I'll be very glad to talk to you. And I thank Mr. Modi for giving me this chance to talk to you all. And so thank you for watching.
What exactly is reincarnation?
Okay, now the human being, when we are in our body, the consciousness is trapped and is conditional because of the condition the brain is influencing it. And there is also a part of us which is constantly recording all these things in some field of consciousness. And when the body ends, those recordings continue like a vortex in consciousness. And because there are many unfinished things in that vortex, it would like to take another body and try to finish those things to the satisfaction. So that is how it's like a vortex in consciousness that leaves the body and looks for another body and gets into it. So the next ego is different from the present ego because that will be made up of the altered situation from the discarnate period, and also many of the past issues will go with it. That's how in hypnotic regression, when people are taken back in memory, all those things recorded in past lives are there somewhere in consciousness. That is how they read past lives and solve present day problems, because this has some link with what happened in a past life. So reincarnation is actually that vortex in consciousness that is freed after the body is dead, and then it goes to pick up another body through which it can evolve further.
So, integrating the NDE experience,
Uh,
or in NDE awareness to our practical life, what you have to say about that?
yeah, because the major advantage of ND and reincarnation is that the claustrophobia and time is removed. Like, I must please God before death, otherwise I'll go to hell. Kind of claustrophobia is there in many people. But this truth of reincarnation tells us that we have many lives. And so we have a chance to transform ourselves to the point of being aware of the ultimate consciousness and then merge with it. That's the end of the cycle. So we are like, each one of us is like a spark from a flame. The flame is divinity, and sparks leave it in order to experience the many things in manifestation. In the process of experiencing, the spark forgets from where it came. Gradually, through self-awareness, it understands that's a spark of the flame, and the spark rejoins the flame. So that way, our outlook on life, because it's not finished with one life, and we have chance to improve and return to divinity or return home sometimes through this process, that gives us a deep peace of mind because the claustrophobia and time is removed.
You also mentioned about manifestation.
Um,
So, what is
yes.
manifestation and how one can manifest?
Okay, so we come here. Um, the spark may initially be manifesting as animal and so on, and then lower levels of awareness, and then when the awareness increases, they become human beings. And then in the human being, we have the capacity to understand where we came from and develop eagerness to return, that kind of thing. So the manifestation can be in some life form, and then which can experience the many things available to us on the planet. Then so if as human beings, we experience them in the form of joy, sorrow, fun, and disappointments, and so on. Everything is part of the manifestation. So when we look at it that way, we won't be very hit hard. We won't be hit hard by sorrows and disappointments. We feel it's all part of the game. So that way we feel relaxed and be willing to go through whatever life brings.
Uh,
Ah, ah.
how much the essence of spirituality is necessary, is important in today's life?
Yes. If we pay attention to this fact of this long journey we are on, then we look at things differently. And so there is a sort of a stepping out from oneself, the one I mentioned before, the affectionate bystander attitude. And that's part of the spirituality because it makes us look at things without too much self-importance. Like, I made a mistake, or megalomania, oh, I invented this kind of, all those three things now slow down because of the spirituality. This tells us that is happening through us. We are not doing them. So that way we become the affectionate bystander to ourselves. And that's a major advantage for being peaceful. And that's how, as mentioned before, being peaceful is more important than um, chasing happiness. So that way, the spirituality brings in deep peace by two things: by understanding the long journey we are on, and the second thing is the ability to be an affectionate bystander.
So why do you think this journey is important? And I mean, uh, what is the purpose of this journey?
The journey is to experience the many things that the manifestations give on the earth. That this planet, there are many other planets where living beings are there, we are sold. But the main thing is the living on the earth has different experiences. So the manifestation, this long journey gives us an a chance to experience divine manifestations of different form. And that is how the journey becomes meaningful. Ultimately, we return home after experiencing many things.
But do you think we give the meaning to our life? In general, there is no meaning.
Meaning to our life in the sense uh, we feel abundantly for everything because it's all divine manifestation. So we feel abundantly towards everybody, towards even the insects and animals. So we will be very kind to them. And the sacredness in all relationship is a result of understanding that we are on a journey, others are also on the journey. So be very understanding and be nice to people, not create problems for them, because this whole journey has to be taken by everybody, and you can be a nice wayside companion to them. So that way, the journey makes us in daily life. We look at people with more compassion.
So that comes to my last question, sir. What is a liberation for the human? Meaning of a liberation?
Liberation, yes. See, the conditioned brain, because of the habitual neurology, it creates the ego, and we meet life through the ego. It creates complications for oneself and others. So, when we go back um, through the brain into the unspoiled consciousness, that is liberation. It can happen through self awareness, and things like NDE will help us go back to the situation of unspoiled consciousness. So, in that consciousness, the ego cannot function. So, the liberated beings are those in whom the brain has undergone change, even chemical change, to the point that only the pure consciousness will function through them. That means the ego cannot manifest. So, in the state of liberation, it's acting from the unspoiled consciousness, and the ego cannot function.
Okay. Thank you, Gopal sir, for giving us a time and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you. I must thank you because I really enjoyed this presentation, and I wish I can see my audience. That's the difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Dennis, thank you. Bye.